I was thinking of doing it by emotion groups. So 38 remedies by emotion groups, the way Dr. Bach had suggested. So that's the way we've taken it up. So the first emotion group that we spoke about the last time was remedies for fear. So different kinds of fear in terms of, it could be fear of performance, it could be fear for somebody else, it could be fear for oneself in terms of what happens in life, performance anxiety and all of that. So today we'll talk about remedies which are used for uncertainty. Of course, a lot of times these remedies are used in conjunction with multiple things, so it's normally not just one emotion which triggers an ailment or even mental discomfort, but it helps to understand it one by one through the emotion groups. So we've got 6 remedies which we talk about today. So a very small focused discussion on this. So the first one being serotonin. Usually when we suggest Bach remedies, Dr. Bach also used to say that look at the personality, look at the general behavior, what the person does, and then accordingly recommend remedies. So while there are body maps, which Dr. Kramer later worked on, so what he did was align certain remedies to certain body parts. So if you look at the body part, you've got a certain, for example, if you look at problems on the cheek, for example, cherry plum is a recommended remedy on the body part.
Like directly on the body?
Yeah, application on the body. Or let's say if there is some pain here on top of the head, then you've got impatience which is mapped to that area. So there are body maps. So if there's a directly physical injury and you want to heal through the remedies, yes, you can refer to the body map and directly apply the remedy on that particular body part. But then if you're talking of a deeper ailment, deeper in the sense any psychosomatic ailment, it could be fever or cancer or just an emotional or mental ailment, it is recommended that we understand the person a little bit, the general sense of what he or she thinks about life, what he or she does, and what is his or her attitude in terms of other things in life, and then accordingly recommend those remedies. So Seroto is one of those which is meant for people who personality-wise find it very difficult to make a decision on their own. They'd rather let somebody else do that for them. So it could be, for example, a student who says, after 10th standard, I'm not sure, science, commerce, let my parents decide. It's a safer decision if they do it, that kind of a personality. It could be somebody who even at work doesn't want to take a risk, even if boss is not there, I'd rather delay the work, wait for him tomorrow rather than
Part of a dependent personality or something?
Yeah, extreme dependence because I am not sure of my sense of judgment. And because I am not sure of my sense of judgment, I don't trust it. I won't experiment with it. I won't. I'm extremely risk averse. So for that kind of a personality, Seroto helps a lot. It triggers the person to start trusting one's own judgment. To say that, okay, I can make small decisions and do fine with it. I don't have to keep consulting people. Because these are people who typically keep delaying decisions because till the time they find somebody else who does that for them. And if somebody does it
they
for
don't
them,
want to lead.
they don't want to lead at all. Because there is an innate fear of responsibility about what happens if my decision doesn't work. So Seroto is for people like that. Also in terms of as a situational remedy, this helps where someone is having trouble making decisions. So it could be general decisions, I mean sometimes as simple as somebody consistently wavers between saying, oh, what do I eat today, Chinese or Italian, to somebody who's trying to make decisions related to life, like what do I study or which job do I take up, and feels impaired and cannot make that decision. So Seroto is a lovely remedy for them, which in a way propels them to say, there are choices, make one of those. If you look at most Bach flower remedies, Dr. Bach associated one, of course, the general energy vibration of the flower itself. That's predominantly what the Bach flower therapy is based on. Plus, he also studied the personality of the flower, the tree, the leaves of that particular plant or tree, and accordingly recommended, or how do you correlate a remedy to a particular situation. So you would find that most of these remedies which have to do with pushing a person to gain more confidence, to be more trusting of one's own self. You'll also find that the flowers are ones which are nice, bright, very standing up on the plant, not the droopy, billowy kinds. So normally if you have a look at the flower, you can get a feel of what could the remedy be used for. So lovely remedy too for if you're looking at students who are in their early career kind of a phase or trying to make a decision about their career. It helps them to be a little more confident about making those decisions. So Cereto is for that kind of uncertainty. Scleranthus, little flower, normally grows in these huge bunches. Scleranthus is where you know you clearly have one or two choices, but you're taking your own time choosing between the two. So this scleranthus is typically for a person who endlessly wavers and delays decision making.
Can't take a decision.
Cannot take a decision even if the choices are very limited. For a Cereto person, it's about, I really don't know what are the choices, I don't even want to think about those. But here scleranthus is where you're saying, yeah, I know my choices, but I don't know if I want to say yes or no. So it's scleranthus, if you have to talk of a primary quality of this remedy, it is balance. It's like the Libran balance scale that you talk about. That's something that I often associate with scleranthus. It brings about balance in many ways. One is in terms of decision making, so if it's a yes or a no, it helps you do that. Even in terms of body and the physical aspect of the remedy, it helps in terms of any balance related issues. So things like vertigo, where I'm not sure if I'm stepping the right way. Helps beautifully in terms of motion sickness, and that's something that I've personally used a lot for, and it's completely out.
Vertigo also.
Yeah. So anything to do with the inner ear problem which causes imbalance in the brain, scleranthus is a very beautiful remedy. It brings the body into stability, and so for people who have to go on a long journey and have motion sickness, it's a good idea to take a few drops of scleranthus just before the journey. It totally stabilizes. And also in terms of the general decision making about, let's say if you're wavering in terms of a critical decision between should I leave this job or not, in those kind of a situation which are fairly critical in nature, scleranthus helps a lot to help you go one way or the other. It pushes you towards a decision. May or may not be the right decision, but it pushes you towards a decision. It's a remedy which you can give if you think the person really needs to make a decision. In the sense, time is running out, you can't keep waiting and making the situation worse. In that case, scleranthus sort of forces a decision. If you think there is still time and the person is simply trying to look at choices, perhaps Cereto is a better remedy to start with. Just instill confidence and the person might take his or her own course. This is where you know that the courses exist, but the person is not wanting to take a decision. That's when scleranthus helps.
Time is limited and you have to take a decision also.
Yeah. Because sometimes you're in where situations keep getting worse. Like let's say if I'm in a very bad relationship and I know I have to take a yes or a no in terms of stay there or not stay there, and I'm not taking it because I don't know, but at the same time staying in that relationship might harm me physically or mentally or emotionally. So if you think the person's had enough chance and that it has to be one way or the other now, it's a good remedy to push the person towards taking one way or the other. So good remedy. Also physically in terms of any kind of balance issues. Even for sometimes for old people who find it a little not confident to walk, maybe after an accident or so, it helps to gain balance. Third one, gentian. Again a lovely bright flower. Gentian is the remedy for faith in the sense of whenever you feel very discouraged with life, and whenever there are losses, whenever there are things that go wrong, in terms of small delays and gentle things that go wrong in life, or it helps in terms of coping with general difficulties where you have faced failure and therefore you've lost faith. It's like Gentian is typically, if for those of you who are familiar with that series of anger management, Charlie Sheen, that kind of a personality is a very typical Gentian personality where he's given up because he's gone back and forth between his baseball career and this and that, and then somewhere he's come back to say, kuch nahi ho sakta, that nothing works in my life.
Yeah.
So Gentian is a remedy which restores faith and says, it's okay, life will go on.
If you're stuck up in somewhere and then
You're stuck up in somewhere
and lost hope.
Yeah, lost hope because somewhere your experiences also say that there has been failure. It's not terrible, but there has been failure. In such cases, Gentian helps a lot in terms of restoring that faith. It's a good remedy to give for someone who's feeling a little sad or depressed because of loss of somebody, a death or even a loss of a relationship in some manner. Gentian is a great remedy because it's correlated to uncertainty, because that lack of faith is a situation where you actually want to have faith but you don't.
Yeah.
Right? So you're in a situation where you're not very happy being in that situation, but at the same time you don't quite know how to get out of it. In that case, Gentian is a good remedy to look at. It instantly brings about a sense of saying that, okay, there is more to do in life. It's not an end just because one thing did not work. So that's Gentian. Gorse, now a slight difference there between the two. While Gentian is for faith, Gorse is for hope. Hope in the sense of where you've got a person who's totally given up. Given up because somewhere over and over again experiences have suggested that things will not work. So here we're talking of cases where let's say someone has terminal illness, operation after operation doesn't work, or gone through a lot of chemotherapy, knows that there's probably not too much hope, or way too much failure in terms of a career or in terms of a relationship. So here you're talking of extreme hopelessness. Gentian is a sense of failure. Now, after a failure, you can still get up and you want to get up, it's just that you don't know how to. Gorse is where you're saying the person says, no hope, I know I'm dying, what should I even look forward to? That's the kind of a situation where we're talking of Gorse. Helps to a certain degree when you're talking of someone who's extremely depressed, suicidal even. But of course, for that kind of a tendency, you have to also supplement it with other things. But it helps in those situations as well. It helps to rebuild trust that there could be other alternatives where sometimes you give up hope because you've only looked at one way of doing things and not another. So Gorse helps in those kind of cases. Gorse can also help in terms of overcoming any solar plexus related issues, which could mean, for example, like a physical diaphragm issue, some pain or something here, or anything to do with the inner child, where let's say as a child I've had trouble, trauma, abuse, whatever, and therefore in that because of that experience, because of the inner child, I view certain things in a certain way. So let's say because I've had a trauma of my parents, let's say losing out a lot of money and property in my childhood, and therefore I had to face struggle. I might now, in this day and age, look at any sort of financial losses as a huge thing, and I would be extremely careful to a point of actually inhibiting my own life, to a point of being irrational about it. Gorse is useful in such cases to say that it's okay, that happened in childhood and let that be, there is hope now that situation or event does not have to repeat now.
But
very useful even for victims of rape or abuse or any kind of extreme trauma, any kind of mental trauma, emotional trauma. It is a lovely remedy too.
Ma'am, you said for solar issues related with solar plexus or diaphragm. Now there are certain issues related with diaphragm. If say, I don't know exact term, but if a wall and diaphragm which doesn't close properly from that, I am unable to put it properly.
But even if it's a physical injury
In
or something,
esophagus, there is again a wall, a flap, which normally opens unidirectionally. If it doesn't close properly,
yeah.
then the food comes up, or quite often food doesn't go down at all. It leads to cough,
Yeah.
it leads to infections over there. Now, any such kind of issues can worse will. Have you tried any therapy?
Not so much gorse in that
Not so
case.
much
Here
gorse.
you're talking about the food not being able to go down.
Yes, in normal circumstances, food doesn't go down because when I eat something, it goes in the stomach, but again it comes up because it is already accumulated. Reflex.
Okay.
Reflex. So
The
it
natural reflexes don't work then.
that don't work. Then the food loss near about that work. And if I eat anything else, it doesn't go into stomach at all. It remains there itself.
In that case, cherry plum is a better remedy to look at.
Okay.
Because somewhere the body feels a little threatened to go beyond a certain point and therefore the natural reflexes don't seem to work. In such cases, if you're intaking something, cherry plum may be a better thing to start with. We can supplement it with gorse because somewhere that area is being affected.
Okay.
And also somewhere if the natural reflexes in that area are being affected, it's also because there is some sense of insecurity in the person because of either the situation around or something's going wrong in the environment, so you feel a little scared or nervous.
Two of the reasons. One is that another is as good as a permanent. It's by birth, it just doesn't close.
Yeah.
And slowly that reflex keeps on every single lot.
Cherry plum would be good.
Okay, not this.
You supplement with it, but intake a lot of cherry plum.
Means
That
it
would be-
basically a physical instead of course of a cherry plum.
Yeah.
In general, some.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there are other ailments associated
Emotions,
with it, look
then
at.
option is worse.
Even physically, you can apply gorse,
But yet option should be
in
there.
that case, the specifically intake is a problem. Cherry plum would be a better one.
And all those affect even if you apply on the skin, even if you need not be taken.
Like because there's some people, let's say, because it has alcohol and you may not want
Correct,
to intake it, it's fine. Just apply it.
Almost same effect or less effect.
Pretty much the same. Ultimately, it's the energy vibration of the flower. So even if you apply it to your palms,
That
it's
works.
fine. That works. Interesting remedy. It's great for times when you're feeling extremely tired and very wary in terms of too much physical effort in day-to-day life. In that kind, or even too much mental effort where you worked on a particular project or a relationship or a place or anything, you've worked on it for so long and you're feeling extremely tired where you want to give up midway and say, "Bahut ho gaya, now I don't want to do it anymore." In such a case, hornbeam is a good remedy where you've started to doubt your own stamina and your own strength and you're saying that I give up, I don't want to work on this anymore. Sheer tiredness. Could be emotional, could be physical. Works very well if you're talking about building physical stamina. Like, I've seen several cases of people running for marathons using hornbeam beautifully. It requires a lot of physical stamina, and somewhere if you've had an injury or an accident during your training process and therefore you feel extremely tired about during the running phase.
Then it can be given for general weakness also.
Any body
Producing a
weakness,
body
you
related,
can.
yeah.
Yeah, you can. Even after a fever, sometimes you feel a little weak.
To recovery will
Yeah.
be fast.
Yes, it helps to build physical and mental and emotional stamina. So, in terms of people, it is meant for people who are feeling very tired, either sometimes because of genuine things where they've handled too many difficult situations and now you're in a very tired phase. Elderly people who are in that phase of saying, "बहुत कर लिया life में now I don't want to do
For them,
anything."
it will be.
Yeah, it helps to vigorize the
Come back
physical
on that
body
track.
to say, okay, chalo, now I'll go do something. So it helps. Sometimes, especially for people who are in that transition phase, just retired and you don't quite know what to do with the time, and because there is time, you start feeling tired. Not because there's an injury, but just because you've not been used to that space and time. So Hornbeam helps to give that physical stamina to say, chalo, let's go do something now. So lovely remedy in terms of both physical and mental stamina. If you know you're getting into a situation which will need a lot of effort, it's a good remedy to start taking beforehand. For example, children who are going to be facing big exams, it's a good remedy to start using even prior to the exam, because you know there is a lot of mental effort and also a lot of social pressure around that whole situation. It's a remedy which will neutralize the tiredness which comes from the pressure that's around. So again,
How is this used? You have to consume?
you can consume. If you don't want to, just apply it on the palms. And that's all. The palms, Hornbeam works beautifully in this area. Also on the thighs and the kneecap.
Thighs and kneecap.
It's same 4-5 drops like that.
Yeah.
If it is to be placed on the
Sole of
feet
the feet.
or on the soles.
You can, if you think that's a part that's getting tired or exerted, you can do that. In terms of the mapping, it goes directly, it hits here very well
Okay.
on the thigh, upper
The
thigh.
reason to work is was different. A particular American company, they say they give medicine to acupressure points with help of some patches.
Which?
With help of a patch.
Patch.
And the
White patch, no?
there are different color, different
Color,
purpose,
yeah.
different they do it.
I heard about it.
And I have put it. This type of marathon I didn't do it. You know, keep myself away if there is any problem anywhere. I should keep myself away. I don't want to be that. But to some joggers and some who used to go for jogging or even for sprint,
Yeah.
I put those patches over here.
On the heel, yeah, got it. Because that part takes a lot of the stress, so it gets tired more easily.
And the speed was amazing. Time which they could run or they could jog was almost 2.5 times.
Okay.
Whether it's insect or not, I don't know, because I did only 4 or 5 times. Like really doesn't give us any exact idea that was the difference.
You can try Hornbeam, it works pretty well. I've seen people amazing results with this one particular person I know who had literally injured his back for some reason, I mean more psychosomatic than physical, but couldn't even sit up properly for a long time. 15 days the guy was running 21 kilometers. So, beautiful remedy.
What you said just now happens for computer operators.
Yeah.
Never a problem here,
Yeah,
the muscles
the
are here in the gap.
yeah. If there is any particular part of the physical body which takes more effort than others,
This
it
helps.
helps to reduce the tiredness.
You have to apply on
Laughs
that.
like this every
Yeah,
day.
apply it on that part of it.
Because carpet tunnel syndrome and all
Yeah.
these things.
Yes,
Yeah.
it locks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Applying this, do the eating or some verbal, we have to give some verbal,
But the person doesn't have to know.
even if you know.
But yeah, if you know, you're also sort of consciously supporting and
With some
receiving
verbal
it.
like placebo effect, you know that he.
Not so much placebo, it's more the energy effect of the remedy. So if the person knows it and welcomes it, then yeah, probably it's faster because
Yeah.
you're also receiving it clearly.
Because faith will work.
So it's fine.
Along with this, faith will work.
Yeah. But it's okay. Sometimes if you don't want to tell the person, it's okay. Yeah. People who are old people who are recovering from illnesses and sometimes you can't give remedies directly, you add it to the food and that's fine. And the last one is this one, wild note. A critical remedy in that it is for people who are naturally very positive, very ambitious, but at the same time they're somewhere trapped in a job or a situation which is very monotonous, very boring, and therefore they constantly get this feeling of being dissatisfied and discontent with life. If you look at the wild oat as a flower, this is a bud which is held in the hand, but otherwise it's a droopy flower. The typical oat plant, the flower droops on the side. The personality of the flower talks of the situation of the person, about very droopy, sad feeling that what do I even look forward to? The life is not challenging enough for me. If you look at the other thing, for example, Seroto, a person would say the life is too challenging for me to make decisions. Here, it's a very bright person who wants challenges but doesn't find it in the situation. So in such cases, wild oat forces you into getting out of that situation. So it shakes you up and gets you to move. Especially for people who are who've lost motivation because they've stayed in that monotony for too long. So sometimes the discomfort becomes very comfortable because you're used to it, and therefore you don't get out of it although you know you're not satisfied with it. In such cases, wild oat is a good remedy to trigger the person and say, this is not the real me, I shouldn't be here, I should go out and do something. Wild oat does a lot of shake-up. It will literally shake the person out of that sphere and say, I am going to make some drastic decisions now. But it's something that should be given carefully, because if you're sure that the person has scope to really shake up that situation or that relationship, then it's a good remedy to take. If you know that, because it causes a shake-up. So if you know that there is no scope to really move out of it in any way, then it will end up being disruptive rather than helpful. So that's a remedy that you need to be a little careful about. It forces the person to make a decision and say, I'm not going to stay here. So if you find somebody who's let's say who's been dilly-dallying over a divorce for a very long time and not sure, should I get out of it, should I not? I know I'm not going to be happy, but what happens next? So it's a person who knows that there are better possibilities, but then there is that fear of also taking that decision, and because of that you're staying in a rut which you know is not meant for you. Wild oat will force a decision and get the person to come out of it. It's a good idea to follow up wild oat with scleranthus, which says, okay, now that I've made a decision, I'll stay there. It balances it, it backs it up beautifully to say, alright, I've made this decision, now I'll not go back and change that decision, I'll stay wherever I have stayed. For people who are, it's a good remedy for people who are in the typical midlife crisis or wanting a career shift because they're too bored with what they're doing. Those kind of situations, wild oat is a good remedy because it creates a shake-up enough for you to plunge out of that situation. Like I said, if there is scope to do it, then it's good, otherwise it will be disturbing.
Decision taken will be right, or it can be other way also.
The right or wrong is a very situational thing.
Only propels you to
Propels,
Yeah,
it stimulates.
It stimulates you to move because you know you're not happy in that situation.
Yeah,
But if skin is closed, then there is
Yeah.
a problem.
See, if you know that, if I know that I'm extremely bored in my job and all of that, but I know that at this point in time, let's say I have a commitment in terms of EMI, somebody's ill in the family and somebody's whatever, and I know I don't have a job in hand at the moment. I'd rather not take this and force myself to get out of it just to feel good, because what do I do next?
Yeah, you can come out of that suppressed feeling.
Yeah. So I might emotionally feel good about it, but practically it is very disruptive if I do that in that state. So
Choice should be available.
yeah. So in that's kind of a situation where the person doesn't have a choice of really moving out. You might as well give me gentian to say that it's okay, the job is boring, it's bad, but still there's possibly more that can be done there. Look out for other avenues within the same thing. So in such a case, Genshin is a better one rather than this, because this will cause a shake-up. I might do something very dramatic and fight with my boss, but at the end of it, I'm
What
not
is the alternative?
really doing
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
If I know that okay, I'm bored with my job and I have enough backing practically, financially for me to be able to move out of the job, then okay, this will help me gain the confidence and go ahead and make that decision, which in my judgment is very dramatic and therefore I'm not taking it. But otherwise, tension is a more smoother remedy to look at. So those are the 6 ones that we had for discussion today. So we got starting with Serotonin, which is purely for trusting one's own sense of judgment. Scleranthus for making a choice when you know you have these 2 choices. It also in a sense of balance. It's a nice remedy. Genshin for faith, where you start looking out for alternative things that you can do in life. It gives you a message that yes, there is more to life. It's not just the current situation. So move out of it. It's alright if there are normal delays and difficulties. Course is for hopelessness, where the person's totally given up and said, no more, I don't want to do anything at all. That's where God helps the person come back into the picture. Hornbeam for sheer strength which helps to ensure that I'm feeling a little more certain about my own abilities. Sometimes you don't take decisions because you find you're not too sure if you have the strength to go through that decision, whether it's a physical or an emotional thing. So Hornbeam helps to build that strength. And Wild Out, which can create a dramatic change in terms of wherever you're feeling very despondent, not so much despondent, but dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction is more of a clue in terms of Wild Out. If you're talking extreme despondency and suicidal thoughts, then Sweet Chestnut is a better deal, not this one. But Wild Out is for dissatisfaction. So, yeah, that's it.
How long a person is to take